If you want a garden that's free of pests during the summer, so much of that comes down to what you do in the winter. It's not about sloshing chemicals all over the place. It's about looking after the pest predators, the little mini beasts that hunt out the snails, the slugs and the aphids. Look after them at this time of year and they'll look after you through the growing season. One thing to be aware of in a vegetable garden is that they're quite tough places for beneficial insects. I'm talking about lacewings, hoverflies, the very insects you need to eat your aphids, but also centipedes and ground beetles. Now these little beasties, they patrol a plot like this, eat up slugs, snails. I mean, ground beetles will even follow slug trails to eat up the mollusks. So they are exactly the kind of thing you want to have. But the thing is, they like undisturbed ground. In a veg plot like this, so much of it is going to disappear. The weather's got cold and it's already looking quite thin on the ground compared to what it did just a week ago. The turnips will go, the fennel will go. We've already said adios to the gourds and squashes. And these beds, apart from a bit of mulch, will become bare. And that'll mean those beneficial insects that are holing up and living out their lives in these vegetables, well, they're going to have a pretty tough time because there'll be nowhere to hide from the birds. But I've got a plan that's going to keep them safe. I create these structures across the plot. And what they are little teepees. I'm going to have a little village of them in every single bed. And these will be hidey holes for all those beneficial insects to hole up during the winter. You don't need anything special to build them, just some sticks. I gather mine from down by the river. The river's making quite a bit of noise today, isn't it? Look at that. You see this pile? I was doing a bit of coppicing, that's chopping plants right down to the ground back in early autumn. So I've got all this brash, and this stuff is really good for uprights because it's only recently been cut, and that means it's nice and soft, so I can get in amongst it just with a pair of secateurs and get short lengths like that. That's what I want. Get rid of the side shoots. 5, 10 of them, they'll do nicely. Once I've gathered the main sticks, the uprights, you need something to bind them together, and that is where this willow comes in. Now I planted this years ago on this plot, and it comes in so handy for building structures, particularly in winter, because the stems are just so malleable and they weave into structures that are not just strong but handsome and bright. Get a bundle of this. And there's another plant that's a key ingredient, brilliant for creating habitat piles, that kind of grab from the moor. I work up here. Difficult commute, yeah. Check out the views. Glorious. Not only that, this little moor is the perfect place for the plant I'm after. It's a litmus of acidic soil, and when you see this stuff grow, it is of course bracken. You know the ground is going to be on the acidic side, i.e. it's got a low pH. Bracken, a super thug of a thing, and there's no shortage of it. And for my little structures, this stuff is brilliant. As you see the tops on it, they're really waxy. They hold their shape and they lock together. That means you can put it around plants, you can put like a cosy over the top of them, and it all locks in place. And this waxiness, it means that water sheds from the leaves, so they don't sit around your plants like a wet coat. And that makes a nice little space for insects and the mini beasts, the beetles, the lacewings, the hoverflies, the solitary bees to hole up in during the winter. I also like the fact that when you cut up the stems, as they age they become hollow, and those holes are another little stop-off point for the mini beasts I want to look after. That's a good haul. Back to the kitchen garden. Got the building ingredients together, and the first job is to get the sticks in the ground in a circle. It only wants to be 1.5 foot 45 centimetres across. Nothing to it really, just get the sticks and push them down into the earth, crossing at the tops to create that classic wigwam structure. As long as they're nice and sturdy in the soil, overlapping, don't need much more than that. And then this is where the willow comes in. This stuff is like living string or rope, because in the autumn it's still full of sap and malleable, really plastic. Look at that, you can just wrap it round the top of the willow like rope and then literally tie it off. Look at that, solid as a rock. Just tidy these tops up, chuck the bits in the middle, they'll be good for the filling. And now I work on the sides. How I do it is I cross over an upright like that. See what I mean? I crossed it and then I've pushed it a bit further around. That makes it easier to weave. And then what I do is I plait. You've got to take two pieces of willow in and out of each other to get it to bind and have some strength. And then as you get to the end of your two pieces of willow, grab a couple more, introduce them either side of the uprights like that, bind them round the existing ones. And although it starts off a bit wonky and wobbly, as you keep going, and as long as you're twisting them around on themselves between the uprights, it soon becomes really strong. Getting somewhere now. Great. I've created a circle and then just got it nice and tight by weaving some more willow round the outside. Just wraps all the little bits in, brings them into the structure. Then I add sticks between the uprights and I open up the sides of that willow hoop, push them down in and then drive them down into the soil. Fills in the gaps and you'll see why in a minute. One more in there. The last set of side shoots I put in, just going to snip them off a few inches above the willow hoop like that. What that creates is a nice little bin, so that all the stuff that you're putting inside the TP doesn't spill out onto the floor. And then you need a mix of materials to go in there. Ideal in the bottom are some old logs. The more rotten the better. Ground beetles in particular love those things. And the key ingredient for beetles is this stuff, fallen leaves. I collected them off my drive actually. Leaves are such a warm insulator, so a good layer of those in the base. This stuff is brilliant for insulating plants. Fantastic, because it's quite rubbery. It's full of latex, you see, bracken. See how glossy it is? And that means it sheds water as well as keeping plants, or insects in this case, dry. Because the ferny tops are quite complex, got all these side shoots on them, when they're bunched together they keep their fluff, and that means cold air can't penetrate into them very well. And bung it in your wigwam, that's where it will be come the end of winter. And I think altogether it looks not just useful but beautiful as well. Like a little it's kind of got a homemade Christmas tree quality about it, hasn't it? Beautiful. Now hopefully beetles, ground beetles, centipedes, all those beneficial insects, those predatory insects will find this and set up home. But as I'm working round, I'm constantly finding insects that are going to lose their home. So under the bricks earlier, I was just clearing away some of this fleece and I found these little beasties. Look at that, centipede. That's a fantastic predator, that. But one thing I tell you, right, this is a robin's favourite food. If you want a robin to eat from your hand, catch one of these. Well, all well for the robin, but your slugs are going to be happy because this eats them. So what I'm going to do with this little beauty, rescue you from the brick and give you a permanent home in amongst my bracken. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see here, well, there's more to come, so please subscribe.